Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are taking an absolute mountain of cutting-edge science and boiling it down into a highly actionable toolkit. We're going to take a hard look at the hidden impacts of our modern, always-on lifestyle. But more importantly, we're going to arm you with scientifically proven strategies to actually take back control of your well-being. Think of this as your personal roadmap from exhaustion to empowerment.
Okay, let's be real for a second. Have you ever walked into a room and just completely forgotten why you're there? Or maybe you wake up feeling totally drained, even after a solid 8 hours of sleep. Look, if you're nodding your head right now, I want to validate that exhaustion. It's not just you, and it's definitely not a personal failure. What you are experiencing are the very real, biological consequences of a world that basically demands we never switch off.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the hard line between the temporary friction of stress and the dangerous, deep-seated depletion of burnout. Stress is that hyper-anxious state. It's short-lived, and honestly, a little bit of it can be useful. It acts like a warning light on your dashboard. Burnout, on the other hand, is a totally different beast. It's a state of complete emotional and physical emptiness. You feel depleted, hopeless, just kind of numb. And the scariest part? Burnout sticks around even when the stressors are completely removed. If you take a week-long vacation and come back still feeling exhausted, yeah, that's burnout. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll decode stress and burnout, look at how stress messes with your memory, and then open up our 3-part toolkit, rewiring the mind with CBT, healing through the body and breath, and finally tapping into the profound power of social connection. Section 1. Decoding stress and burnout, the threat assessment. Let's kick things off by looking at the actual biological gears that turn everyday pressure into chronic exhaustion. So, the crucial thing to understand is that your body basically has 2 main operational modes. The sympathetic nervous system is your classic fight-or-flight response. It amps us up, spikes our heart rate, and gets us ready to survive immediate threats. But we desperately need the parasympathetic nervous system to step in afterward. That's the system that shifts the body back to baseline, bringing us tranquility and calm. The big problem with modern life, we get completely stuck in that sympathetic overdrive. We literally forget how to switch off. Teladoc Health puts it perfectly. Think of humans like elastic bands. A little bit of stress, a bit of stretch, that actually helps us perform and get things done. But chronic tension without any release, that breaks the band. When we don't allow our parasympathetic system to engage, we simply snap. Section 2. Stress and your memory. The hidden damage. Let's see how this constant snapping affects a very specific and frankly fascinating part of your brain.
You know, we talk a lot about remembering the past, right? But what about remembering the future? That's your prospective memory. It's a future-oriented system that handles remembering to complete planned actions at a specific time. So if you've ever completely blanked on a 10 a.m. meeting or just totally forgot to grab groceries on the way home, it's actually your prospective memory that misfired.
Clinical research shows something genuinely alarming here. Chronic stress is negatively correlated with your time-based prospective memory and your ability to monitor the clock. What this boils down to is that prolonged stress literally impairs your brain's executive function. It compromises your ability to track time and execute future intentions. The stress hormones flooding your system are functionally making you forgetful. So it's not that you don't care, it's that your brain's hardware is just utterly overwhelmed. All right, Section 3, Rewiring the Mind with CBT. This is part 1 of our toolkit. Now that we understand the biological problem, let's look at how we can fix it, starting with your mind.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, proves that our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are all deeply tangled up together. When we're stressed, we tend to fall into these distorted cognitive traps, like catastrophic thinking, where we instantly imagine the absolute worst-case scenario, or overgeneralization, where one single setback means everything is ruined, or that classic black-and-white thinking. But by actively spotting these thoughts, you can intercept the stress response. You can evaluate how accurate they actually are, introduce some balanced perspective, and restructure your reaction. You basically become an active participant in your own healing rather than just a passive victim of your stress.
Next up, Section 4, Healing through Body and Breath. This is part 2 of the toolkit, where we shift from the mind down into the body.
Okay, this number might completely change how you look at your next meal. 95%. It's a shocking fact that 95% of your serotonin, which is the vital neurotransmitter that regulates your sleep, your appetite, and your mood, is produced entirely in your gut. Your gastrointestinal tract is quite literally steering your emotions.
As Harvard Health points out, your brain is always running.
And like an expensive car, it needs premium fuel to defend against oxidative stress and inflammation. Because your gut microbiome directly controls this inflammation and your overall mood, the food you choose is absolutely critical. In fact, studies show that eating traditional diets high in unprocessed foods, veggies, and fermented foods can actually lower the risk of depression by up to 35% compared to a standard Western diet loaded with refined sugars. That is a massive difference.
Breathing in, I calm body and mind. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is the only moment. This isn't just a nice quote. Intentional breathing anchors us in the present. It is literally the fastest, most direct biological hack we have to instantly activate that calming parasympathetic system we talked about earlier. It sends a direct signal telling your body that it's safe to turn off the alarm.
Which brings us to the 4-7-8 breathing method. And seriously, I want you to try this with me right now, wherever you are. It's an ancient practice fully backed by modern integrative medicine. First, just exhale completely. Okay, now inhale quietly through your nose for 4. Hold that breath gently for 7. And now exhale completely through your mouth, making a whooshing sound for a count of 8. Doing just a few cycles of this physically forces your heart rate to drop. It pushes your body right into relaxation mode. It's essentially a pocket-sized stress relief tool you can carry anywhere. Finally, Section 5, the power of social connection. The third and final piece of our toolkit. Let's zoom out and look at a massive societal issue that the U.S. Surgeon General has officially called a public health crisis.
It is wild to think about, but roughly half of all U.S. adults report experiencing loneliness. Half. And we're not just talking about feeling a little sad. Biologically speaking, loneliness and social isolation act as incredibly strong predictors for poor health. They increase the risk of heart disease, dementia, and premature death. It's a silent epidemic that is quietly eroding our collective well-being.
And the financial tool of all this isolation, it is staggering. Loneliness cost employers an estimated $154 billion in 2019 alone, mostly due to lost productivity and absenteeism. People who feel lonely just miss significantly more days of work. It is a blaring siren telling us that the design of our modern work environment is entirely failing our fundamental human need to belong.
So how do we combat this? Well, the Surgeon General laid out some clear recommendations. Workplaces absolutely must make social connection a strategic priority. That means training leadership to actually support their teams, building social infrastructure that fosters a real culture of inclusion, and, crucially, protecting the boundaries between work and personal time. Social connection is not a luxury, folks. It is a vital preventative health measure.
Well, we have covered a ton of ground today, from the bizarre biology of perspective memory to the instant relief of the 4-7-8 breath. But here's the thing. All this science doesn't mean a thing if you don't actually use it. If you are the sum of what you eat, how you breathe, and who you connect with, which of those 3 are you going to change today? Just pick one small thing. Take back your energy and take back your health. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.